Hi, Ratna.
Hi.
Hi, good to see you. Um, and welcome to this chat. And thank you for giving the time. Such a pleasure to have you in Mind Over Matter when you were here for 2 years back. Just to introduce, Ratna is an investment advisor, and she runs a firm called Her-mony, which gives investment advice to women in particular. So, Ratna, could you tell us much more about yourself?
Yeah, so I started my career with banking and, moved on from there to do my CFA later. Ran a business also for a couple of years. And like a lot of women, gave up a career and everything for the sake of my kids, my family, to follow my husband to all the different cities that he moved to. During my break, I've interacted with a lot of women as mothers, as friends, I find that money matters is something which they left to their spouses or their brothers or family, and they did not take a lot of active interest. Something which I did because of my professional background. I think when I gave up and stayed home, I made sure I was investing actively. So as my kids were growing, I felt that there's a need gap between which I could address, because I've been doing this. So I wanted to address women and ensure that they become active investors, which is how I started my firm called Her-mony in 2013.
Right. So, yeah. And Ratna, what brought you to Mind Over Matter?
So when I started the business in 2013, I had two partners along with me, and I had believed that it would be great to work and collaborate and work with friends, and that we will be able to do something. And we started the business. Investment advisory regulation actually came in 2013, so I was one of the first few who had applied for a license. But the industry was not ready for this as a idea at that point in time, not completely. So it was a lot of learning for myself and everything, and along the way my partners wanted to move on with other things. So what happened is, in 2018 is when I took a license in my individual name, and I was ready to grow and scale up, and felt that I needed something more within me to help me reach a lot of my goals. And I just thought this was the right platform or the right learning that I required. And of course, Smriti, you've been my friend. And more than that, I think at that point in time, that little piece of advice which you had given me when I was trying to address 100 people, which I'd never done in my life before, it kind of, I knew that you were the right person to guide me through this process. So I was more than ready to see what was next and how to go about it.
Yeah, thank you, Ratna. And it's really wonderful. Your niche is really wonderful because I don't think many people think about it as much. And I think all of us women need that advice. So, Ratna, so once you attended, what value did you get? And not just once you attended, over the period of time, it's been almost 2 years. What value do you think attending the program, being part of Mind Over Matter, gave you? What?
So my first memory still is about, when we were waiting before the program started, and I was doodling. And I was doodling all these chairs and stuff, and then you actually made us do this whole thing about visualization and visualize where you're going to be in the future and all of that. And I suddenly turned around and I said, "This is what I was, just doodling," and it came from somewhere deep inside me. I do not know why, but that was my visualization. And when I went back, I didn't think much about it, to be very honest, but that became my reality as I noticed. And I suddenly realized this was the drawing I had done a couple of months ago. So I think immediately after the session, I don't think I realized what I had done or I had experienced. But soon after, I started seeing things which I did not, which I did not anticipate, maybe, at the time of doing the session.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started noticing little things that have changed, and
Yes.
that helped me grow.
Yeah, and that's the power of the work that we do, because one, that it works for every person in the way they want it to work for them, and second, because we use neurolinguistic programming, and visualization is using neurolinguistic programming, the work happens and the impact can be felt, in your life, which if I tell people before, they will not believe me, but you've given me an example of that. And I remember, Ratna, that you called me one day and say, "Remember that picture I made? That picture's come true today." What was that? When was that, Ratna?
So yeah, so I have been wanting to impact a lot of women and be seen as a speaker so that I can actually impact them, create that effect where they start thinking about it, right? And somehow those opportunities didn't fall in place till then.
Right.
And something changed there. Now I really don't know what, where, why. I'm find it difficult to pinpoint it. I think you put it more professionally, but I know that from then on I have done so many sessions. In fact, I have another one coming up in mid June, and it's just become a flow and it's become on its own. And I remember I was sitting in front of a huge auditorium of women, and then this was also an organization which works across different companies. So these are women who work across different organizations, and these are all women who are impactful. And I had an opportunity to address that kind of a group. I had an opportunity to address women entrepreneurs, and I suddenly realized that it's just become true. So
Yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of that actually.
Wonderful. So, Ratna, what were some of the, if you remember, and I know it's a couple of years back, if you remember, what were some of the limiting beliefs on the conscious level that you felt had been washed out because of the program, and you were created a more expansive identity? What were some of those?
So I think both. Let me speak about personally, and then I'll speak about professionally also. I think personally, the fact that I was home for the longest time, uh, and both my family and people around me, knew me as the homemaker and the cook, the cleaning, everything ran perfectly. But that's what she knows and that's what she does. I don't think people knew me as someone who had professional skills, really speaking. Neither my kids nor my husband also, I think, at some point had given up thinking that she has any other skills. Even my friend circle thought that, yeah, she's that quiet girl, on the side kind of a thing. So that is where I came from personally. When it came professionally, again, just to give you a little background, when I was actually doing my courses, or when I was in college or school or everything, it was highly competitive. I was highly accomplished. I was always doing things really well. But at that point in time, I felt I'd lost it. Because when I saw my classmates, or even though they were younger, I saw them as bigger achievers than I ever was. And so professionally, I felt at some level that I was not up to the mark, or maybe I'm not good enough.
Right. Yeah.
And today, I don't think I feel that way. So I don't know what has changed, but a lot has changed.
No,
And I think the fact that I managed to achieve a lot of good body of work, and it got noticed both in professional circles as well as personal circles, has changed. So a lot has changed since then.
And Ratna, that's an important point you bring, because women being so much nurturing in nature, we tend to attend to our families and our immediate needs, and sometimes in our own eyes we feel we don't have the confidence, and it's also dependent on while it shouldn't be, but it does happen that when people don't perceive us in a certain way, we also don't gather the courage to prove them wrong. And sometimes we need a little bit of push, we need a little bit of girly courage, to make us think that we can do what we wanted to do, and we might have put it aside for a bit. And you are an example of that, and I'm an example of that, and you and I know many such examples. And that's one of the reasons why Mind Over Matter was born, is just to address that yes, it's possible that you may not feel confident right now, but doesn't mean that your skills have gone away. In fact, you've probably grown many skills which will come in useful.
That's important, that we feel that I'm not the only one.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there are so many others who have so much talent and so much in them,
Right.
and they've just become these givers for their family, and they need to explore and express themselves a lot more. And just to see that there's so many others like that suddenly gives you the courage to say, okay, I can do it too, and it changes things within you. So
Yeah, and
it's
the
a
more we share, Ratna, to the more women can come out. And the other thing that I say is that while you may not be professionally engaged, or not in a business, but the fact is that as a mother, or as a wife, or as a family person, you do develop many personal leadership skills, which we should not discount. I'm just putting it out there for anyone who's listening. So, Ratna, in what way did mind over matter help you to restore balance in your life?
So what the through the program, what I did learn,
Hmm.
and I sometimes do forget, but I always remind myself. So is that it's not about everybody around me; it's about me.
Hmm.
And so if I want to change anything around me, uh, I have to change what I do to
Hmm.
bring about that change.
Hmm.
And I think that has become who I am today. It isn't immediate. It takes a long time.
Hmm.
But at every instant when I felt low, I've had to remind myself just that, and then things have changed at every point in time. So I think um, it's a very deep change, and it's very difficult for me to explain how that happens. But it does happen, and I have seen it benefit me at all times.
Thank you for that. It's always nice to hear that. I remember you sending me an audio clip and saying that when I changed, the people around me changed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it happens every day. It
Yeah.
happens with my husband, it happens with my son, it happens with my daughter, my dogs as well. So it's
Yes.
very impactful.
Yes. Wonderful. So, Ratna, many times when we want change to happen, we think that we want things to happen like tomorrow. So tell me, what were some of the seeds you sowed that have, over period given you the outcome that you wanted? Because I want women to know that once you plant the seed, things will happen, but you should believe that they will happen. So give us an example of that.
What I do know is that I think it just put two, three things very clearly for me. One was, what is it that I want?
Hmm.
And I think that focus, that
Hmm.
if this is what I really want, why am I not going there?
Hmm.
And so, two things to address. First and foremost, what is it that I want?
Hmm.
And so, if you know that clearly for yourself, because a lot of the time, as women, we are only listening to what others want from
Right.
us.
Right.
So, when we start listening to what we want from ourselves,
Hmm.
that becomes easier. The
Hmm.
second is that once we know what we want from ourselves, then the path slowly becomes clearer.
Hmm.
So, when something tries to hinder that,
Hmm.
you know that you're going to react,
Right.
and so you find ways of reacting the right way to get, to remove the bushes or whatever in your way so that you can move on.
Hmm.
um, at the same time, you don't really have to go fight a war, but you can just clear your path and move slowly,
Exactly.
freely.
Yeah.
So I think those two things were very clear.
Right.
Became very clear for me that if this is my goal,
Yeah.
then it's my goal, and I mean, I have one life, and I've just decided that, okay, these are my goals. Let me just live my life and reach my goal, and while we continue loving the people in our lives, while we continue maintaining great relationships with all the people around us, uh, you know this is important for me. So this is something which I'm not willing to compromise on.
Right.
And I think that learning has helped me be happy also and stay stable and focused.
Yeah. And that's again a very important point that sometimes women think that, oh, if I do something for myself, then I am going to neglect all of this. And I often say that we can't think in terms of either or. We just have to create that realm of possibilities. And then we can, make adjustments and say no to things. And this is what Stephen Covey says. He says, when there's a deeper yes burning, then it's easier to say no to some things.
Oh
And
yes, oh yes. So such a big yes, because there would be, there were always people who want you to come and spend time here and spend time there and spend time there, and there are all those expectations on you. And then somehow, I've learned how to tell my family no, my immediate family no on certain cases, my extended family no for a lot of the time,
mm,
and a lot of friends know, and a lot of people know, and I'm like, okay, I mean, if this is unacceptable to you, I'm sorry, I'm hurting your feelings, but
mm,
this is important for me, so I'm okay to hurt your feelings if it. I realize that it's not my problem. Everything is not my problem.
Yes. And that's a great realization, because really we are only responsible for ourselves. Ultimately, others are responsible for themselves. And the sooner our children learn that, the better it is. So overall, in a period of 2 years, you've really grown and evolved in your personally, professionally. Now tell me, if you wanted to give a message to other women who were thinking of attending this program, what would you want to say to them?
Um, I'm a financial advisor and investment advisor. So the only thing I tell all women is invest,
Hmm.
and invest in yourself as well.
Hmm.
Because anything that you do which adds value to you
Hmm.
will give you a return.
Hmm.
And returns always convert to success.
Hmm.
So return, it seems like, and return is always monetary. So when we think this may not convert monetarily, but
Hmm.
success eventually becomes monetary. So when you chase money, you don't get,
Hmm.
you may not get. That's what we say. When you chase returns, you may not be successful.
Hmm.
But you chase a goal,
Hmm.
and you will get success. And success can be both. Will always be. It always ends up being monetary. How is a question mark, because money comes back in so many forms to.
I think we may expand it and say it means you will have wealth. So wealth could be in so many ways. It doesn't need to be, your bank account. It's wealth in many ways. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. So right. So, but lot of times women, um, if don't like to. I have come across this, that there's a certain hesitancy to, uh, you know you are very willing to invest in your children and your spouse, and but when it comes to actually parting with money for yourself, women don't like to do that. And what would you want to say to them, especially because you're an investment advisor?
So I think, as someone who stayed home for 15 years myself as
Hmm.
well, so please don't look at me only as an investment advisor. Please
Hmm.
remember that I've been also a homemaker for 15 years, when everything was being earned by my husband. And I think even I put myself in that space, because when you spend for the family, for the children, for the husband, you don't feel guilty.
Hmm.
And I understand that feeling completely. You just don't feel guilty. You don't have to ask your husband, because he thinks you have a that is the right decision.
Hmm.
But the moment you have to spend on yourself, because you do feel that I'm highly educated but I'm not earning, and therefore I don't deserve the money
Hmm.
being spent on myself, and unless somebody gifts it to you, you don't want to take it. And that's how we all behave as women.
Hmm.
But what I did do, which helped me set up my own practice, was that I told myself that I have given up a career to sit at home.
Hmm.
If I was working even an hour or two outside, won't have made some money.
Hmm.
So I created a small investment regularly for myself
Hmm.
out of everything that belongs to the home soup bowl.
Hmm.
And I, as women, we also receive many times different forms of giving from
Yeah.
family members and things like
Sure.
that. And I think we should feel that that is our right, what we do with it. Instead of putting it in the locker and locking it up and say, Shagun ke paise, I gave it to this one, that one, or whatever. So I think as long as you collect all of that and put it aside for yourself, and use that for yourself, and use that to grow your investment, and use that to do what you want to, at least throw that guilt out. At least that helps you throw that guilt out.
Yeah.
So I understand it's not very easy to throw that guilt out,
Hmm.
but at least with some amount we should be able to do that, and you should build that as a corpus, and then use that to always invest for yourself and grow yourself and add professional skills and add more to yourself.
Hmm.
So this is another way
And
of doing.
yeah, and Ratna, so since you are very unique in the sense that you 15 years you were at home, and now for last what 7 8 years you have been working, and so you've seen both sides. Tell me, what's the impact on people around you because you have decided to invest in yourself financially, health wise, every which way? What's the difference to people around you?
Um, I think first is it takes a little time, and I think as women we have to be ready to accept that we have to go through that journey and the time,
Hmm.
because in the beginning nobody's used to you doing these things, so there will be hurt and pain, and then you slowly move on the other side. But the moment they see a little bit success, small successes that happen to you,
mm,
the entire the ecosystem around you changes, and suddenly you earn a lot of respect from people who took you for granted.
right,
And we allow this to happen to ourselves, and that was my learning journey as well. We allow this to happen to ourselves because we like being the comfort system for all the people we love.
mm,
But maybe we also need a little bit of that from everybody else. So
mm,
when we break away a little bit,
yeah.
I think we are valued a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is research to say that, that even children, they, while they want you there, but when they see you doing things for yourself, then and developing and growing, then they respect you more. And that's what I say. So when we are trying to have our wheel balanced, we have to meet our need for significance and growth. And only I can help myself, because nobody else can do that for us. Thank you, Ratna. This has been so nice and so enlightening just to hear this from you. What your journey has been. It just inspires me all over again to do more of this work. So thank you so much.
So I also want to share a very nice story with you, Smriti. This was a long time ago when my daughter was in the 7th or 8th grade.
Hmm.
And I had been only a homemaker during that period.
Hmm.
So I only cooked, cleaned, and took care of the kids and the dogs and the house. So one day she came to me and she says, Mom, I need to go for tuition. I
Hmm.
said, what do you want to go for tuition for? She says, computer science is very, very complex. You will not understand it. I cannot understand a word of what's going on. And I said, why do you need to spend money to go for a tuition for this? Bring your books, let me go through it, and let's see if we can crack it. And she was shocked because she thought this was something completely alien
Hmm.
for her mom, because her mom only has these skills. Till we actually sat down and I said, okay, what is it? It's Java. Oh, Java. Okay, let me read it. And I read a couple of things, and I was trained in computer, so I knew C, C++. I was actually running a software training center, which when she was very small, so she doesn't have a memory of it. And so when we actually opened, and I said, okay, maybe just write this logic like this, and these are a few errors that you've done, and why don't you try it this way? It should work. And then she just looked at me very strangely, Mom, I didn't know you knew any of this. So, I think this is how our children perceive us, because of what we do to ourselves out of love and affection for people who are important in our lives.
Yeah. And we need both. We don't need one, we need all of it. And I also want to say, Ratna, that, when children grow up, they must feel like they can reach out to us for the help they need. But if they feel that we've not evolved, then they will hesitate to reach out to us. And therefore, there is a need to keep growing, because growth is not an option, it's a must. We have to grow. Thank you once again, and we will reconnect in future.
Chalo. All right. See you
Okay,
then. All
bye.
right.